Okay, hi, hello, welcome back. I saw a booktuber who I don't remember the name of, but I will link their video down below because I saw this video and thought it was a super fun idea and was like, I absolutely have to do it myself. And it is creating your own reading bingo board, which I have done. It is January 19th. I meant to do this before the new year and then just didn't. So while I have technically completed some of the prompts on my bingo board, I am considering the day I publish this, which hopefully is tomorrow, the 20th. That is going to be the start of this challenge just because it feels like cheating a little bit to be like, "Oh, well, I already read that, so I can cross that off." So, as of tomorrow, the 20th, January 20th, is when I'm going to really start the bingo. But I wanted to go over what is on my bingo card and why I put certain things on it versus other things. So, I decided to have themes for each rows that made the most sense for me. My first row is books that are published in 2020, 2021, 22, 23, and 24. I thought that this would just kind of be like an easy win. I don't look at when books are published to guide what I read. I just kind of, this sounds interesting, so I'll read it. So I don't think that this is something that I'm really gonna have to like focus a ton of energy on, but I do think there might have to be some thought process. The biggest annoyance with this row is that I'm gonna actually have to look at the published date of the books that I read, but that's whatever. So the second row, or I suppose the second column, is genre based. So, books that are romance, science fiction, fantasy, nonfiction, and a young adult book. So, I have reiterated that fantasy, romance, and sci fi are my least read genres. But I want to kind of challenge myself a bit this year and read those genres so I can actually, because maybe I'll find a book that I do really like, you know? And those are three really big genres, especially romance and fantasy right now are huge. So I already have a couple ideas of what books I'm going to read for those, and I will talk about them probably at the end of the year. Do like a this is what I read for what. Nonfiction, I explicitly am ignoring memoirs for nonfiction because I do read a good amount of memoirs. So I feel like for it to be like a proper nonfiction, it has to be like a like nonfiction book. The only nonfiction book I think I read last year that wasn't a memoir was Everything is Tuberculosis. And I didn't love that. I didn't love it. So there's that. And then young adult, I just don't read a lot of young adult books, but I think it was maybe 2 years ago at this point, I did read a young adult book that I really liked. So I know that there's something out there for me. Okay, now to the middle column. DNF 5 books. Last year was the first year that I allowed myself to really DNF books, and I believe I DNF'd 14. So 5 feels like a very doable number. Um, I wanted to kind of up that number a bit, but I didn't want to make it so that I was DNFing books just to complete the bingo. But I also didn't want to have like such a small amount. So it's gonna be 5. That's fine. Hit my reading goal of 85 books. I think I will definitely be able to do this. I read 106 books last year. My reading goal is just something to feel proud of. It's not necessarily like something I want to make stressful, so I always make it a bit smaller than what I think I'll actually be able to do. So then when I surpass it, it is like it's a win. And finish a book. That is my free space. I have already finished, I think, 4 or 5. So that's an easy one. Read a book that is less than 150 pages and one that is greater than 150 pages. My sweet spot for books is anywhere from like the 250 to 300 mark. I tend not to read books that are way, way longer, and I don't read a ton of books that are like that short. So I think that this is also just going to be kind of like something to kind of broaden my scope a bit. Okay, second to last column. a book from Asia, but specifically not one that is Japanese or Chinese, because I feel like those are at least the two most common that I will read and see. So I feel like trying to read something that's like maybe from the Philippines or Thailand, like some of those smaller countries that aren't, I feel like, as easy to just grab a translated book from. Same thing with my book from Europe. I want to specifically read a book that is from a non-English speaking country. So maybe like the Netherlands or Sweden or Peru, not Peru, or Portugal, somewhere that isn't just like the UK where everyone speaks English. I also want to read a book from Africa. I can't tell you the last time I read a book from that continent, a book from Central America, and a book from South America. I think Central and South America might be a bit easier. I do think I read a couple books from those regions last year, but still something to have as a bit of a goal. Okay, and then my last column, I think this is going to be the most challenging column. It is a book that makes me laugh, cry, gasp, scared, or hungry. I don't cry at books. Could not tell you the last time that I even felt like close to crying because of a book, so that's going to be really difficult. Same thing with a book that makes me scared. I feel unnerved at some books, but not necessarily scared. I think that's going to be a bit harder to find. I've read multiple Stephen King books, and they haven't made me feel super, super scared. The Long Walk, I think, would be the closest just because of the amount of suspense built into that book, but not necessarily like fearful. It makes me laugh. I tend not to laugh at books. However, I am reading The Exorcist right now, and there is a line that made me laugh in that book. So there's that. And then makes me gasp. That sounded fun. And makes me hungry. I read quite a few books last year surrounding food and like food culture and talking about a lot of food. I read Butter and then I read Piglet by, I think it's Lottie Hazel. And both of those books talked a lot about food. I also started A Certain Hunger, but I didn't finish it. And those three books have a lot of details about food, but I don't think they necessarily made me hungry. So that'll be an interesting one. But yeah, that's my bingo card. I think it'll be kind of a fun way to challenge myself to read different books from different areas and kind of be a bit more thoughtful about what I read. I think it's not going to be difficult for me to get a bingo. I think what's going to be more difficult is getting a blackout, but again, this is just like a fun little thing for me to do, not something that I want to stress about because I don't want reading to ever feel stressful. So yeah, I think that's all I have. It's a super short video, very, very short. But yeah, I'll post my bingo card if you want to follow along. I'll post and link that video that I originally saw with this idea. I know she's not the first person to kind of come up with it, but I've seen I think it's Grace, like Reads with Grace maybe. She does a bookish bingo, but that is more geared towards like things that happen in the book world, not books that she's read. Especially like author shenanigans and all of that. But I'll link those videos too. They both kind of inspired this board. So yeah, I think that's all I have. Super short video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make your own bingo board. It's a fun way to challenge yourself reading in the new year. Yeah, that's it. I will see you all in the next one. Peace and love. Bye.